Hi, this is Krista at The Secret Yarnery. Today we're making the Speedy Granny Crochet bedspread. It is so fast, it's ridiculous. You're gonna love it. What makes this stitch and this blanket so quick and so easy, and easy enough to make an actual bedspread? It's a one row repeat, so there's one row to remember, and you get to keep doing it back and forth. It always starts the same, it always ends the same. And you're skipping a stitch without making any holes. You can see how it's still a nice solid texture. So you are skipping a stitch or chaining every fourth stitch, but there is no holes. It's nice and dense. This Speedy Granny Crochet bedspread can be made any size, from a toddler bed or a single bed, double, queen, king, California king. It can be any size at all. You just adjust your starting chain and keep going until it is the height you want your blanket to be. It does have a very straight edge, so don't worry about having a wonky edge or not identifying the last stitch of your row. That is part of the pattern. There's also no ends to sew in. We're going to be doing tassels instead, so you can change your color as often as you want and not worry about all those ends to sew in from every color change. If you'd like a written pattern to go along with this tutorial, it's available over on my website, secretyarnery.com. And if you're right-handed or left-handed, there's a video tutorial for both of those. So if you're watching this being like, hey, is there the other one available? There sure is. I'll put a link to that in the description box below as well. To make the Speedy Granny Crochet bedspread, you will need 1,600 grams of worsted weight yarn, or size 4 weight yarn, which works out to 56.5 ounces. For my blanket, I chose 6 different colors plus a neutral. So each of my colors was 200 grams of yarn, and my neutral I used twice as much, so 400 grams for my neutral. I'm using a mix of Savor and Savor 100 from Ice Yarns, plus one little skein, the green one there, is Favorite, just because I love the color and it had to be in my blanket for that unicorn look. There's a link to these yarns in the description box below. Just click Show More, and you can pop right on over and see which colors they have available. So to start your chain, you want to leave a tail the length that you want your tassels to be, or about 6 inches, and make a slip knot. Shrink that down and put it on your hook. Now for making the chain, I suggest starting with a larger hook size than you'll be using for the pattern. I'll be using the 7mm for my blanket, so I'm going to be going up to an 8mm for my chain. And that's just to make sure that the beginning of the blanket doesn't get all tight and end up curling like that. So using your larger hook, we're going to chain multiples of 4. For a single bed cover, you'll chain 164. For double, 201. For queen, 237. And for king, 273. Another way to do it is single, you want to chain 5 feet, double, you want to chain 6 feet, queen, you want to chain 7 feet, and for a king size bed cover, you want to chain 8 feet. And we're just going to go counting sets of 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you want to keep going until your chain is the length you want your bed cover to be. It'll end up being the width. So down one side of your bed, across the top, and down the other side. So pause the video, get your chain the length you want it to be, and I'll meet you back. For this tutorial, I'm just going to be doing a small sample. So change hooks back to your regular hook. Put your big hook far away. You don't want to grab it by mistake if you come back to your project. So make sure you put that out of reach. And chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. And now we're going to start into the 4th stitch. So looking at the bottom of our loops of our chains, we're just going to be looking here. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to go into the 4th one. Just at the bottom, so we're going to have 2 strands of that chain on our hook and 1 underneath. So wrap your yarn and into the 4th chain, 1 double crochet. Wrap your yarn and into the next loop or the next chain, just this bottom loop here, 1 double crochet. Chain 1, and now we're going to skip 1. Our chain counts as our first double crochet, so that counts as 3 double crochets or a set of 3. So we're going to skip a chain and work into the second. So skipping this next chain, and we're going to work into the second chain. Same spot, just this bottom loop. Wrap your yarn and into the second chain, 1 double crochet. And we're going to do that into the next 2 chains. So we're going to do a double crochet into the next chain and a double crochet into the one after that. So we're making sets of 3 double crochets. So here's our second. And our third. Just into that bottom loop. There is our second set of 3 double crochets. So chain 1 and skip a chain. So we've worked into this chain here with our double crochet. We're going to skip the next chain and work into this one here. So skipping a chain, we're going to make another set of 3 double crochets, 1 into each chain. So there's our first, our second, and our third. If I'm working too fast, go ahead and pause the video till you get caught up. Or you could also adjust my speed by clicking those 3 dots, and you can slow me down or speed me up. So we're going to keep going, making these sets of 3 double crochets. So once you have 3, chain 1 and skip 1. So we've worked into this chain. We're going to skip the next and work into the second. So wrap your yarn, skipping a chain, we'll make another set of 3 double crochets. At the end of your row, you'll have a couple chains left, but that is exactly what we want. We want to still skip a chain and make our last double crochet into the last chain. So chain 1, skip a chain, and we're going to work into the last chain. If you just have 1 chain left, it's fine. Don't panic about it. Just work into the last chain you have with a double crochet. So wrap your yarn and go in. Make 1 double crochet, but we don't want to finish it. We just want to take off the first 2 strands and leave the last 2 on your hook. Cut your yarn, leaving about the same amount of yarn as the previous, or however long you want your tassels to be. And go ahead and grab your next yarn color. Make a loop about the same length as your tassels will be. It doesn't have to be exact. We're going to trim our tassels later, so don't panic about it being perfect, just approximately. And put that loop onto your hook. Hold both of those strands on your hook and finish that double crochet with your new yarn. Now find your tail and hold it down. So you're holding both of those tails down at the back of your work. And chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. You can let go now and turn your work. We're going to knot these later, but not now. And just in case we want to change it or frog it back, remove your yarn, whatever you want to do. So we will be knotting these, but we'll knot them when we're finished our blanket. Now into this space, this chain 1 space, we're going to do our extended double crochet. So that's not as hard as it sounds. We're just going to do a double crochet, but we're going to make it right into the chain. So same as we did in the last row. We're just going to go in with 1 loop underneath our hook and the rest of it on top. So wrap your yarn and into that bottom loop, that chain. Just so there's 1 of those loops on your hook. It doesn't matter which one. And we're going to make 1 double crochet around all of that. So it's a big double crochet, just like that. And now into the next stitch. If you kind of straighten out your work, you'll see that the next stitch is right here. These little dimples at the top, or these little spaces, these holes, those are stitches. So we're going to work into the first one. Wrap your yarn and into the first stitch, 1 double crochet. So we've done our set of 3 double crochets. We're going to chain 1 and skip 1. So there's our chain 1. We're going to skip over this center stitch and work into the next. So 1 double crochet into the second stitch, into the chain space, we'll wrap our yarn and make an extended double crochet. So just poke your hook into that chain at the bottom of the space, getting 1 strand of yarn on your hook, and then make your double crochet around all of that. So 1 double crochet and 1 double crochet into the next stitch, which is way over here. So it kind of looks like we're jumping over. All of this here is the same chain space. So our first stitch matches the rest of them. We're going to be working right here. So wrap your yarn and 1 double crochet into the next stitch. We're going to jump over this center stitch. So chain 1, skip a stitch, 1 double crochet into the second. If I'm going too fast or too slow, you can change my speed by clicking those 3 dots underneath and slowing me down or speeding me up. Now we're at the space again, so we're going to do our extended double crochet. So wrap your yarn and into that chain, just poke 1 of those strands on your hook and then make a double crochet around all of it. That is our extended double crochet. Into the next stitch, way over here, 1 double crochet. Like that. Chain 1, skip 1, 1 double crochet into the second stitch. Into the space, or around the space, we're going to do our extended double crochet. So wrap your yarn and go into that chain, just poking 1 strand on your hook and making a double crochet around all of it. So there's our set of, there's 2 double crochets of our set of 3. Wrap your yarn and into the next stitch, right over here, 1 double crochet. So that finishes our set of 3, and we have this little blip left over. Remember, our chain counts as a double crochet, so we're going to skip the center stitch, so chain 1 and skip 1, and we're going to work into the top of that chain. So you can kind of roll it towards yourself so you can see the loops. We always want to be counting those bottom loops. So here is 1. That's our center double crochet. We want to go into the next. It's the top of the chain 3, same as we always have. So wrap your yarn and top of the chain 3, 1 double crochet, but we don't want to finish it. We just want to wrap and take off 2 and leave those last 2 loops on your hook. Cut your yarn about the same length you want your tassels to be, and go ahead and grab your next color. Make a loop about the same length as your tail, or the length you want your tassels to be, and put that loop on your hook. Finish your double crochet with your new yarn. Find your tail, drop your tail and hold it at the back of your work, and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Now you can let go of your tails, and you can kind of pull them down if you'd like to, and turn your work. Now this will be the pattern repeat starting right now, so this is what we're going to be doing for every row of this Speedy Granny bed cover. So wrap your yarn, and this is our chain space. So now instead of going into the chain, we're going to be working into the top of that double crochet down below. So we're just going to be working into it like a normal stitch. Just going in, making sure we have 2 strands of that stitch on our hook. So wrap your yarn and into the top of that double crochet, like that. Make 1 double crochet, or 1 extended double crochet, and into the next stitch, which now you can see a lot easier, right here, we're going to make our double crochet. So wrap your yarn and 1 double crochet into the first stitch. Chain 1, we're always going to skip over this extended double crochet. So whenever you see this long stitch, that's where we're going to chain 1 and skip. So chain 1 and skip, and into the second, 1 double crochet. So this starts our set. So we're going to start our set right before the space. Wrap your yarn, 1 extended double crochet where the space is. So dropping down, getting those 2 strands of that stitch below on your hook, and 1 double crochet, and 1 double crochet into the next stitch. So that finishes our set of 3, just like that. Chain 1, we're going to skip over that long stitch, and into the next, we'll start our next set. So double crochet before the space, extended double crochet into the stitch below the space, and double crochet right after the space. So there's our set of 3 again. Chain 1, because we always want to skip over that extended double crochet, and into the next space we'll do our set of 3. So 1 double crochet into the stitch before the space, 1 double crochet into the stitch below the space, and 1 double crochet after the space. So we're making these sets of 3 all the way along our blanket, and we're always starting with a set of 3 on our starting side. Here's a drop down extended double crochet, so we're going to chain 1 to skip over it, and now into our chain we are going to make our last double crochet. Here's our double crochet right there. We want to go into this chain. So if your chain is looking like this, it's kind of backwards, you could roll it towards yourself to find that chain, or you can just go in from the back side on that top loop. You just poke your hook in from the back side, putting that 1 loop on your hook, and then going into the space and making your double crochet. And that gets the 2 loops on the top part of your hook. Now remember, we don't want to finish this double crochet, we want to change our yarn color. So go ahead again, you want to cut your tail about the same length as the rest of your ends, or the length you want your tassels to be, and get your next yarn color. Get a loop of yarn with leaving a tail about the same length you want your tassels to be. Pinch it and put it on your hook. Hold that tail down of your previous round. Just hold it at the back of your work. Bring your new yarn through. Find your tail and also pinch it along the back of your work. And chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Turn your work. And now we're going to be doing the exact same thing for this round. So we start with a space right here. So we're going to do our extended double crochet. So wrap your yarn and go into that stitch below the space. Make 1 extended double crochet. Wrap your yarn and into the next stitch, 1 double crochet. So there's our first set of 3. Chain 1 to skip over that long stitch. Don't know why my dogs are freaking out, I apologize. And now we're going to do our set of 3 before, during, and after the next chain space. So wrap your yarn and into the stitch before the space, 1 double crochet. Into the stitch below the space, 1 extended double crochet. And into the stitch after the space, 1 double crochet. We're going to skip over that long stitch, so chain 1, skip over it, and we're going to work our next set of 3 around the next space. So into the stitch before the space, 1 double crochet. Into the stitch below the space, 1 double crochet. And into the stitch after the space, 1 double crochet. Chain 1 to skip over that long stitch. And around the next space, we'll make our next set of 3. So into the stitch before the space, 1 double crochet. Into the stitch below the space, 1 extended double crochet. And into the stitch after the space, 1 double crochet. So we're going to chain 1 to skip over that long stitch, and there is our chain again. So you can either roll the chain towards yourself and go into that bottom loop. That gives you 2 strands on the top of your hook. Or you can go in to it backwards from the back side a little bit. Just get that one loop on your hook and then go into the space. And that'll flip it and get the 2 strands on the top of your hook and make your last double crochet without finishing it. Cut your yarn about the same length as your other tails. Grab your next color. Make a loop, leaving your tail about the same length you want your tassels to be, and finish that double crochet with your new yarn. So we're going to keep going like this until your blanket is the height that you want it to be. So pause the video and keep working back, repeating the same row over and over until your blanket is the height you want it to be, and I'll meet you back for the last row. I'm ending my blanket with the same color, so both edges of my blanket will have this cream color. Loop of yarn, same length you want your tassels to be, and join that new yarn. So just bring it through and drop your tail and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. So that's the same as we did for our blanket or our bed cover. And turn your work into the stitch below our space. We'll do an extended half double crochet. So wrap your yarn and go into that stitch underneath the space and make a half double. So wrap your yarn and take off all 3 loops at once. Into the next 3 stitches, 1 double crochet into each stitch. 1, 2, and 3. And into the stitch below the space, a half double crochet. So wrap your yarn and go in, grab your yarn and bring it back, wrap your yarn and take off all 3 loops. Into the next 3 stitches, 1 double crochet into each. 1, 2, 3. And into the stitch below the space, 1 extended half double crochet. So wrap your yarn and go in, grab your yarn and bring it back, wrap your yarn and take off all 3 loops. So it looks like this. Super cute. Into the next 3 stitches, 1 double crochet into each stitch. 1, 2, and 3. And into the stitch below the space, 1 extended half double crochet. So we're going to keep going like this all the way along the row, and it'll just finish off our blanket super cute. I've worked into my last stitch and now into my chain. You'll make your last double crochet, but now you'll finish it off. So take off 2 and take off 2, and to secure your yarn, chain 1. Now you can go ahead, cut your yarn, leaving a tail the same length as the rest of your tails. Pull your hook up and your yarn through and snug that down. So both edges of your blanket look very similar, and we're ready to start our tassels. To start your tassels, all of these ends that came from the same stitch, we're going to take those and just give them a double knot. So knot them once. You don't want to pull too tight, but you want it to be knotted. And do the second time. The second you can do a little bit tighter. And go along both edges of your blanket, just tying those 2 strands together. For your first knot on the side where we started, you can just loop your starting chain tail, or the tail from the very corner of your blanket. Just put it in the center of those 2 strands and do your knot. It's already knotted, we just need it in the same spot. And now it will be in the same spot. So there's our double knot, and our starting tail is in the same spot. If you want it a bit snugger, you can just kind of tug it a little bit till it's laying nice and flat. Now keep going along, making knots for all of your tails along both sides of your blanket, and I'll meet you back for tassels. To start your tassels, you want to begin by finding a book. Hardcover is the easiest because it has a nice little track for your scissors that is 1 inch or 1.5 inches longer around than you want your tassels to be. I want about 6-inch tassels for this blanket, so I found a hardcover book that is 13 inches around. I'm going to be doing each tassel in one color of yarn just to give it more of a rainbow definition along the bottom edge. So the first tassel I'm going to be doing in the pink. Hold your yarn so it'll be at the center of your book and wrap 4 times. 1, 2, 3, and this will be 4. So along the spine of your book, there is 4 strands of yarn. Just running your scissors along the center of your book, cut that yarn. Pinch it. And now this will be an 8-strand tassel. We just want to line it up so those ends are approximate. We're going to be trimming them later. Hold them. You can use your bigger hook for this. And we just want to find a spot where that knot is. We don't want to go in just with 1 strand. We want to go into kind of a thick part. So push your hook in. So we have quite a bit of blanket on our hook. Loop of that tassel on your hook and bring it through. You can bring it through a bit, maybe about 1 inch. And now slip stitch with all of that to join. Pull it through and snug that down. Now grab a smaller hook. I'm using a 2.75. I just grabbed one, you know those small hooks that come with your clover set that I never use? This is when I use them. So flip your work over so you can see that knot and this nice loop and this nice bit of your tassel with all that yarn across. And slide your little hook under those 4 strands of yarn. And we're going to grab all these tails. So see how many we can grab at once. Got 2 of them. So pull those through. And now I'll go back and get what I missed, this pink one. You can use even a 4mm. Pull that through. And we just want to have this knot underneath these nice strands of yarn. So you can either poke the nice strands over your work or kind of snug that knot down under. Like that, so it's all looking nice and cute. And that's 1 tassel done. So decide what color you want to do for your next tassel. Hold the edge of your yarn just so it meets in the center of your book and wrap 4 times. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Take your scissors and cut. Pinch your tassels from the other end, from the spine of your book. That will be the center. Line them up. Put them on your thumb and get your next spot ready. So first we use the bigger hook. We want to poke it in, making sure we have lots of blanket on our hook. Loop of that tassel onto your hook and bring it through. Drag it through for about 1 inch and then slip stitch with all of that yarn to make your tassel and pull everything through. Snug it down. Flip to the other side, get your small hook, poke your small hook under those strands and grab your tails. Bring your tails through and your tassel is finished. So keep going, making tassels all the way down along your blanket. Do the same thing on the other side, and I'll meet you back when we are trimming these ends. When your tassels are complete, grab a big pair of scissors. You just need a longer blade. You don't want to do it with short little scissors, but just regular scissors will be great to do this. And then just come along and get an idea, get a look for where most of your ends finish. and smooth them out a bit. You want to do a little combing, a little hair doing before you get started. And then just go along making nice snips. So all your tassels will be approximately the same length. It doesn't have to be perfect. Another way you can do it is line up your tassels with the grout line if you have a tile floor somewhere in your house, and then use that grout line as a guide for your scissors. So you can move your blanket back until the tassels the short strands are close to that grout line. You don't want to be wasting too much of your yarn. And then get your scissors, and you can just run your scissors in that grout line and just snip off the long ones. That's another way to do it if you have a grout line. And it's easier with two hands because you can hold your tassels down and make bigger snips. But even just one-handed, you can see how that grout line really helps. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I'd love to see yours. If you're on Instagram, you can tag me at Secret Yarnery, or if you're on Facebook, we are the Secret Yarnery. We also have a crochet group, the Secret Yarnery Crochet Community. That's a great spot to upload your photos if you're on social media. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. Love to have you join us, and thanks so much for hooking along. We'll see you in the next video, and stay hooked.